Hello, my name is Jacek Smolicki. I'm a researcher, artist and educator interested in sound and listening. And in my current postdoctoral research, I'm interested in exploring critical and creative potential of sound walking, field recording and listening practices. And I'm particularly interested in seeing them as, or hearing them perhaps, as specific ways of connecting with the surrounding environments, ways through which we can learn about the environments much more than we commonly learn or perceive on our daily basis. So I'm interested in also exploring the very technologies through which we listen and techniques, ways that increase attention to the imperceptible or to that which for some reason has been ignored, neglected, left underheard in our surrounding environments. And during my research, I've been both developing soundwalk compositions or pieces for specific locations, including Swedish Arctic Circle, Vancouver shoreline, and also the US East Coast. But at the same time, I've been trying to open up those otherwise quite solitary practices to different communities by organizing collective sound walks, workshops, listening sessions, and also by editing a book with 10 other authors who use sound walking as a method in their very diverse practice. So very recently the book has been published. It's called Sound Walking Through Time, Space and Technologies, and basically that title encapsulates what I've been doing for the last 3 years. And in that book, those mentioned already authors engage in rethinking really the practice of sound walking, field recording in the context of the kind of troubling situations that whether individually or collectively we found ourselves in recently. And this include, of course, the climate change, the prospect of consequences on Anthropocene, how sound walking and attentive listening can help us connect with other species, with other humans who've been historically neglected, discriminated, but also with histories, how we can try to use our kind of hearing capacity to hear back and use basically the soundscapes of today as gateways into the past and also into the future, and thus become more attentive cohabitants of our planet. What drew my attention to the Canaveral National Seashore and the Soundscape Field Station, actually there were a few things. Firstly, it's a very unique place, which combines a lot of ecosystems, a lot of interesting histories as well, and sound-wise, it's a very interesting place where a lot of different phenomena collide and interact with each other. And in my practice, I'm interested in kind of transient places where different types of ecosystems, different species, but also, again, different histories meet, interact, and leave some kind of traces, also in terms of soundscapes. And I think this is like a prime example of that kind of transient territory, which oftentimes is also referred to as an ecotone. And it's a term from the environmental studies that was also adopted in soundscape studies by Andra McCartney, sound scholar and artist, actively working with kind of acoustic ecology. And ecotone basically denotes a place where life is particularly vital, precisely because of this kind of collision of other ecosystem species and events. So I perceive Canaveral as an example of ecotone, how the technological collides with the natural and environmental, and we have a border with the Kennedy Space Center, and the launching place, which is becoming more and more active these days with more the intensification of space launches. So there's this interesting, again, collision, between the byproducts of human and technological activities and the sounds of the nature here. And while here, I'm staying at Doris Lieper's house, which is an amazing legacy of her activity here as an environmentalist, one of the founders of the park and an artist actively working in the community here. And the house itself I perceive as a kind of ecotonal territory in the way that it kind of brings the human or brings humans in, but also make them interact with other than human species. And I had to kind of adapt to the fact that I share this territory with other species, and the house, just like all other kind of places here, is occupied by multiple species, and so the first kind of week of my residency was a little bit of a negotiation of my presence here versus the presence of other species, and how we can kind of cohabit that territory in a way. So I've been learning a lot about the impact that my very presence also causes here in the Canaveral. And oftentimes we field recordists try to exclude ourselves from our work, from our recordings, and keep the pristine nature at the very center. And in my work, I'm trying to actually include my presence and acknowledge my position here also as someone as an intruder in some way, but also as someone who is deeply concerned, with environmental changes and tries to do something, to at least to some extent bring awareness and maybe help preserve these environments here. So. This is how I see my kind of presence here. One lesson or one impression is that besides trying to protect natural environments like this, creating physical boundaries for the territory to be protected, we also have to very seriously consider soundscapes. And you might hear the little noise of an airplane up there in the sky. So that's what I've been, kind of recognizing as one of the first impressions here when I arrived. The presence of anthropogenic sounds and noises, and how, to work towards preservation of nature, we have to consider soundscape as a territory that is much more sensitive to the transgression of human activities. Other impressions. In terms of sound, the place is constantly vibrating, constantly moving. There's constant movement everywhere, and if I were to kind of pinpoint one specific type or sonic phenomenon that characterizes this place, I would say it's a kind of a rustling sound, a rustle, caused by the multitude of animals and species and energies, the wind, for instance, constantly animating this place, but also movement of us humans here, I think. So while here at Doris Lieper's house and as a resident at the Soundscape Field Station, my goal is to create a piece that embraces this kind of ecotonal nature of this place, meaning a piece that brings to our attention, of course, the natural sounds that we have to cherish here and try to preserve, but also how they speak, how they relate to kind of the intensifying anthropogenic sounds that we keep hearing here more and more. And I like to kind of position the listener in a situation where, it's not being told to them that, human noises are bad and natural sounds are good, but rather create a situation where the listener herself, would have to kind of create her own position in relation to this problem, if we want to frame it as a problem. So I try to engage with the community by talking to people about their perception of Canaveral, and I ask them usually very basic questions about the sounds of Canaveral that they would love to preserve for future generations. and also how this place, but also other places like that will sound in the future if we remain on the path of development as humanity on which we are currently walking or sound walking. So these are the questions I hope to ask and hear responses to, and then those voices will be also incorporated into the final piece, hopefully revealing the kind of diverse ways of relating to this place through sound and through listening. The outcome of my work will hopefully take a form of I call it soundwalk composition, which is basically a soundscape composition that you listen to while walking through a specific place. And it will be accessible online through people's mobile devices upon downloading it. Hopefully there will be also a possibility to download it at the Visitor Center and maybe also Atlantic Center for the Arts. So you don't have to rely on the connection, which can be tricky here. So you can kind of download it and have it fixed on your device, and then go to an indicated place. There will be several places where you'll be kind of encouraged or invited to experience the piece, and then you basically show up there and play the piece as you walk into the park. And other than that, I hope to present the piece as a multi-channel soundscape composition at the Atlantic Center for the Arts, back to back with the conference, World Forum for Acoustic Ecology, that is happening in March. And there, public will be invited to, just kind of witness a little bit of a time capsule, or a collage, montage of different sounds from the Canaveral, again including both the natural sounds and the anthropogenic sounds, including even the sounds of the very household in which I'm staying, as kind of integral part of the park and of the experience that people have here in the park. One of the practices that I've been exploring in my research, but also through my artistic activities, is sound walking. I don't have to explain what it is. I'm pretty sure that most of you are already familiar with the practice. And of course there is a whole variety of approaches to sound walking. You can take a without any technology, just immerse yourself in the environment and listen to it. You can take a sound walk which is partially scripted, that includes wearing headphones and hearing some kind of clues, or even sounds, things like that. And for me, sound walking is primarily a way of tuning in with the environment that surrounds us, but not only with the environment as it is at the moment, but also with kind of a deep history of the environment that we walk through. So I've been trying to kind of advocate like an expanded approach to sound walking that approaches the present soundscapes as gateways into the past, but also into the future. And that can be achieved by the means of technologies. You can, for instance, invite people to follow a certain itinerary and listen to the environment, and then get some kind of archival material, for instance, kind of projected on top of the soundscape they hear at the moment, and that can also include kind of like speculative soundscape composition that has to do with some kind of prediction of sound in the future. So I like to call this kind of type of soundwalking as hybrid soundwalking, or as a transversal, in a way that it kind of cuts through different layers, temporal layers, but also material, geological layers, and so on. So yes, I think if I had to just sum up, for me soundwalking is a way of becoming aware of the complexity of the environments that we live in and coexist within. I'm very grateful for being here, and I'm grateful to a number of people and a number of human and more than human actors and energies that this place is animated by. And firstly, I would like to thank Eve Payer for organizing and coming up with this idea of a soundscape field station, which is a wonderful idea, and facilitating this stay here. It's been a really transformative experience to me, and I hope for other artists who come and have an occasion to visit this place. And I hope the project will continue in the future. And I mean, judging by the reception of the project among other members of the community, I'm pretty sure that the project will continue and flourish. So I would like to also thank all the park rangers who've been very supportive, especially Michelle, who's been, checking on me almost every day, if I'm surviving down here at Doris Leaper's house, but also all other rangers that I'm in regular touch, Jamie, Brandon, Justin, Doug, and many more who come here regularly to help and ask if everything's going well. I would like to thank Friends of Canaveral for helping with the reception, first of all, and then being very supportive and open to to help anytime help is needed here, and of course for supporting this whole initiative in many different ways and through different means. And yeah, I would like to also thank all the organizers of the conference that is coming up, the World Forum for Acoustic Ecology, for also including me in the program and the possibility to present my work I'm developing here within the framework of the conference. Yeah, and the land itself needs to be thanked, of course, and I want to acknowledge the land I'm privileged to be sound walking through, and without which, of course, this wouldn't have been possible at all.